Imagine a world without banks, no credit cards, no ATMs, no wire transfers. If you wanted to move your wealth across the country, let alone across continents, you'd have to haul it yourself, a heavy, clanking target for every thief along the road. Now, what if I told you that the solution to this problem, the very blueprint for modern international banking, wasn't invented by a Wall Street genius, but by a secretive order of medieval warrior monks? These were men who had taken vows of poverty, yet they built a financial empire that would make today's billionaires jealous. They were the Knights Templar. How did a band of holy warriors, sworn to protect pilgrims, end up creating a system so powerful that it could fund kings, finance wars, and move fortunes across the known world with just a slip of paper? And more importantly, what happened when that power became too great for even kings to tolerate? To understand how this happened, you have to travel back to the early 1100s. The First Crusade had just ended, and European pilgrims were flocking to the Holy Land, but the journey was treacherous. The roads from the coast to Jerusalem were crawling with bandits. A French knight named Hugues de Payens and 8 of his relatives saw this firsthand. They decided to do something about it. In 1119, they formed an order, taking vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, dedicating themselves to protecting these travelers. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem gives them a headquarters on the Temple Mount, the site of the ancient Temple of Solomon. From this, they took their name, the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, or simply, the Templars. For the first decade, they were a small, obscure group, so poor they were famously depicted as the knights sharing a single horse. But behind the scenes, a powerful idea was taking shape, one that had nothing to do with swords and everything to do with trust. The real revolution began with a simple problem. A wealthy European noble wanted to go on a pilgrimage, but he couldn't risk carrying his life savings in gold. So, he went to the local Templar preceptory, or commandery, in London. There, he deposited his gold. In return, he didn't get a heavy chest, but a simple letter of credit, encoded with a secret cipher. After a long, safe journey to Jerusalem, he would present that letter at the Templar headquarters. The Templars there would verify the code and give him the equivalent amount of money from their local vaults, minus a small fee for the service. It was genius. They had created the world's first international money transfer system. This system exploded in popularity. Soon, the Templars had established a network of preceptories across Europe and the Middle East. They became the go-to financial institution. If you were a king needing to pay an army abroad, you used the Templars. If you were a merchant needing to secure a trade deal, you used the Templars. They weren't just transferring money. They started issuing loans, managing estates, and collecting taxes on behalf of the nobility and the church. Their vow of poverty was for the individual knights, not the order itself. All wealth flowed directly to the Templars, who used it to fund their mission in the Holy Land. They became incredibly efficient, disciplined, and most importantly, trusted. They were seen as being above the greed of nations because they served a higher power. Their military strength also meant your money was secure. No one dared to rob a Templar bank. For almost 200 years, their financial empire grew unchecked, making them more powerful than many kingdoms. But this is where the cracks began to show. Their success bred envy and suspicion. The turning point came with the fall of Acre in 1291, the last Crusader stronghold in the Holy Land. Suddenly, the Templars' primary military purpose was gone. Yet, their financial power remained, stronger than ever. They were a massive, independent multinational corporation with its own army, accountable to no one but the Pope. King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair, saw this as both a threat and an opportunity. He was deeply in debt, ironically, much of it owed to the Templars themselves. He saw their immense wealth not as a tool for God, but as a treasure chest ripe for the plundering. He began a vicious smear campaign, spreading rumors that the Templars were secretive heretics who spat on the cross, worshipped idols, and engaged in profane rituals. The fallout was swift and brutal. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date that some say gave rise to the Friday the 13th superstition, Philip ordered the simultaneous arrest of every Templar in France. He seized their assets and subjected them to horrific torture until they confessed to his fabricated charges. Under duress, many knights, including the Grand Master Jacques de Mallet, admitted to heresy. Though Pope Clement V was initially hesitant, he was politically weak and pressured by Philip to act. In 1312, he officially disbanded the order. Jacques de Mallet, after retracting his forced confession, was burned at the stake in Paris in 1314. As the flames rose, legend says he cursed both King Philip and Pope Clement, declaring they would meet him before God within a year. In a chilling twist of fate, both men died within months. Philip tried to seize the Templar treasure, but he found the vaults mostly empty. To this day, the location of the vast Templar fortune remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The system they built was shattered, and their assets were largely absorbed by a rival order, the Knights Hospitaller, or simply seized by Europe's monarchs. So, how does this medieval story connect to your life today? The parallels are almost uncanny. First, consider the concept of a too-big-to-fail institution. The Templars became so integrated into the European economy that their sudden collapse sent shockwaves across the continent, creating a financial vacuum. Sound familiar? It's the same logic we heard during the 2008 financial crisis, where governments had to bail out massive banks because their failure would have wrecked the global economy. Second, think about digital currency and global transfers. When you tap your card or send money overseas with an app, you're using a direct descendant of the Templar system, moving value across vast distances based on a trusted, encrypted network, without physically moving cash. The Templars proved that money could be information. Finally, the story is a stark warning about the tension between state power and independent financial entities. King Philip destroyed the Templars not just for their money, but because their international network operated beyond his control. Today, we see similar tensions as governments grapple with regulating multinational corporations and cryptocurrencies that transcend national borders. Reflecting on this saga leaves us with some powerful takeaways. First, innovation often comes from unexpected places. A group of monks, not merchants, created the foundations of modern finance because they were trying to solve a practical problem. Second, trust is the ultimate currency. The Templars' entire system was built on their reputation for integrity and security, a reputation that, once lost, led to their immediate downfall. And third, power attracts scrutiny and creates enemies. The very success that made the Templars indispensable also made them a target. This story serves as a timeless warning. When any single entity, whether a bank, a corporation, or even a government, accumulates too much power beyond public accountability, it becomes vulnerable. The question for us today is, who are the Templars of our age? And will their story end any differently? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy diving deep into the hidden histories that shape our world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.